Now, Rishi Sunak took centre stage at conference today in a bid to convince the public that he is the man to fundamentally change Britain for the better. Here's what the PM had to say.
So if this country is to change, then it can only be us who will deliver it. Because if we do not, our growth will be stunted. More places will be left behind, and ever more of our time will be spent debating the side issues and symptoms rather than the deeper, more structural challenges we face. We won't allow this to happen.
The thing people have to understand, OK, is that when GB News turns up in town, we make the big noise. And so it wasn't the Prime Minister who was the star of the show at conference. Far from it. There was only one name on everyone's lips. Arise. Nigel Farage, who attracted huge crowds and adoring fans wherever he went, especially amongst the young, it must be said. And Farage mania even spread to some senior Tory MPs who said that they'd welcome him back to the party in a heartbeat. Check this out. Nigel Farage become a member of the Conservative Party again. Should he be allowed to?
I think we should go on our hands and knees and beg him.
You may have noticed Nigel Farage is wandering around your conference, first time in decades. Would you have him back as a member of the Tory party?
Now, the Tory party is a very broad church, right? I welcome lots of people who want to subscribe to our ideals, to our values.
Yeah, and there was a lot more of that as well, by the way. So tonight I am asking, would Nigel Farage rejoining the Conservatives save the party? Let me know your thoughts. Email me, Patrick Christie's @gbnews.com, or tweet me at @gbnews. In fact, the best way to email me would be gbviews@gbnews.com, because I'm not checking my emails because I'm on the telly. But I will bring you those results very, very shortly. But to debate this now, I am joined by the former MEP and conservationist Stanley Johnson, who knows a thing or two about people who lead Conservative parties, as does my other esteemed guest, former Conservative MP and Minister Edwina Currie. Both of you, thank you very much for joining me. It's always ladies first here. Edwina, Nigel Farage to save the Tories. Your thoughts?
I'm no lady. I'm a Scouser. No, I don't think he would actually save the party. I mean, Nigel has a long history of failure behind him. He's failed as leader of several different parties, some of which he's set up and then managed to destroy. Vote Leave wouldn't have him, if you remember. The electorate won't have him. 7 times he's stood for Parliament and been rejected. I mean, the only thing he's actually succeeded in was over 20 years serving in the European Parliament, which apparently he hated, but he still did it. And that was because they had the daft proportional representation system. I mean, he's a good mouth. You know, that's all he is. He can put a case. He's very noisy.
Look, Edwina, he's won a couple of national elections when it's come to the European Parliament. You know, he was on the right side of history with Brexit. He rallied the base. Stanley Johnson, I will bring you in now. You just can't buy Nigel's kind of popularity. Why wouldn't the Tories have him?
As far as I'm concerned, I disagree with Nigel on a very great number of things. By the way, I just watched the interview he had with Jacob Rees-Mogg, and you see from that, this is a guy who does have star quality. Jacob Rees-Mogg pointed out that everybody's flocking around him. My point is this: what are we here for? The Conservatives are here to win. Win the next election. How can they possibly turn this man down if he is willing to rejoin it? Don't forget what happened in 2019. He stood down his troops. If he hadn't done that, I suspect that the majority we had in December 2019 would have been very much smaller than it is now. Now, just as a matter of basic courtesy, we should say to him, look, Nigel, do apply. Jacob made it clear we ought to have him. I think we ought to have him, and my view is that a man of that calibre can be persuaded to do the right thing, and in any case, the people of this country will support him.
Edwina, if we had a referendum on some of the major issues facing this country at the moment, so net zero, the ECHR, what we should do with small boats, legal migration, I put it to you that Nigel's view on all of those issues would win a referendum. So why wouldn't the Conservatives have him? Would you rather be out of office?
Well, with all due respect, a referendum is the last thing that we need. Remember the trouble that the last referendum caused. So that's not going to happen.
No, my point is he'd be on the right side of it. My point is he'd have the majority view. Go on.
Just politicians do not answer questions that begin with if. We don't answer hypothetical questions. We deal with the real world. I thought Rishi Sunak's speech this afternoon was absolutely brilliant. It's a long time since I've heard a serious speech from a prime minister exactly like that. I think he's got exactly the right policies, and I think actually conference had the same view as well. That's the way we win, with good government, not with slogans and spouting rubbish. And actually, just not bear this in mind, Patrick, that whatever anybody thinks about Nigel Farage, he's not that popular in the rest of the country. And we really want to be winning elections, not putting up somebody who's going to lose them for us. I've done so many others.
I find myself.
Go on, Stanley. Go on.
I find myself in a very bizarre position. Bizarre because I said I don't agree with Nigel on a lot of things. But one thing I will say is he can win elections, and I think we've got to think of that. And one other thing I want to say: the most impressive speech I heard today was Mrs. Sunak's. I thought Ashkata Murty was absolutely brilliant. She ought to be there too. Let's have them both together.
That's the dream ticket. We have Rishi Sunak's out in the cold. You've got Shatter and Nigel there leading the way. I mean, yeah, absolutely. No, I can get that. The thing is, though, Stanley, right? You know a thing or two about raising a big personality, OK? Personalities do win elections. And at the moment, we've got two candidates who don't have any.
Well,
Stanley.
that may well be true.
You, Edwina. You go.
Yeah, that may well be true, but that's not what you win an election, then you've got to run the country. And with all due respect, Stanley's son found it a little difficult to run the country when the challenges came. What we've got now is a prime minister and a government that are actually running the country rather well after some, shall we say, slightly turbulent times. I don't think the nation really wants more turbulence. I don't think they just want a spouting personality. I think they want some good government, and we can deliver that.
Well, I'm interested that Edwina at least admitted there are some challenges which Boris faced. That was generous of you, Edwina. I think one of the challenges he faced actually was his so-called friends in the Conservative Party. But let's not go down that route. No, I say the Conservative Party at this moment cannot afford to turn its back on Nigel Farage and the support he could bring.
OK, I'm just going to finish with a quick question to both of you. I think I might know the answer there. Edwina, are you honestly saying to me that if Nigel Farage stood in Rishi Sunak's position, so if he was leading the Conservative Party right now, do you honestly think they'd do worse at the next general election?
Yes, absolutely, because an awful lot of people will dislike him, don't trust him, don't like his politics, don't feel that he is trustworthy. I mean, members of his own parties.
I just wonder if has he not got more conservative values, though, Stanley, than the, frankly, quite socialist economics of the day and the authoritarianism of the day, banning smoking and all of this stuff, banning things, you know. Well, I want
to tell you, Patrick, I have a long-term plan here. Okay. And my long-term plan is use Farage, use him ruthlessly, get him in to deliver a Tory majority, and then have an extraordinary evolution in the Farage personality where he says, yes, of course, I was pro-Brexit, but now I think we really need to build a substantial, solid base for our relationships with Europe, and a few other things as well. So, yes, I say get him in, use him. He's the secret weapon which will actually deliver not only the election victory, but get us back on the right track in so many other ways too.
All right, both of you, that is a proper clash, so well done. Thank you very much. That is former Conservative MP and Minister Edwina Currie, who shushed me earlier. I will not forget that, Edwina. And, of course, the former MEP and Conservationist Stanley Johnson. Good stuff. Now, who do you agree with? Would Nigel Farage, rejoining the Tories, save the party? Mark on Twitter says the Tory party is now UKIP in all but name. If Farage joins, it would show people what it's become, a shabby and divisive shadow of itself. At least people would understand one way or the other what it was voting for. Leah on Twitter says, only with Farage as leader do the Tories have any hope of winning the next election. Well, there's a range of views already. Steve on Twitter says the Conservatives have lost the next election. So why on earth would Farage want to join a party that is a lost cause? Look, Steve, I've got a feeling, especially as somebody who was prowling the corridors of Conservative Party conference, that actually I think plans are being laid for after the election, and maybe that's when we will see some rather interesting developments, but more of that later. Your verdict is in, though. This is interesting. 43% of you think that Nigel Farage rejoining the Tories would help save the party. 57% of you say that he wouldn't. What I would be fascinated to know with that is how many people said, no, you didn't think he'd save the Tories because you want him to go it alone, because you want him to just do his own thing, maybe you vote for a different political party, etc. I'd be loving to know some of the nuance involved in that. Also makes a difference to quite a lot of the polls that normally appear on this show, where it's like 90%.